Data scientists, you have to, again, my rule is you'd have to code in either R or Python.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do a lot of Python coding. Does that make me a data scientist? I'd say no, because I'm not doing that stats and modeling and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But, every vendor is confusing the market.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Tech Bakaya. Today I have a very special guest. I know I tell you every time I have a very special guest, but this time it is special because this guest is a non-marketeer, but he's kind of a wizard when it comes to data. So he is Chris, and I know Chris since my days from Alteryx. I used to work for Alteryx, and I met Chris, and he was an avid user of the tool, and he has used tools like Alteryx, Tableau, Power BI, you name it. And he has been in data industry for more than 25 years. That's a long time. And he has been doing data analytics before data analytics was fashionable, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris. Chris, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm so glad that you have made the trip from Central Coast to here. And thank you. It's a beautiful day outside. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself to my audience, who you are, what you do, about your credentials?
Yep. Well, credentials, that's a hard place to start. So my name's Chris McClellan. I run my own consultancy business. I've done that for 5.5 years now. Why? Because I wanted to treat clients the way I expected clients to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around in data for a very long time, way more than 25, but let's just cap it at 25. And just using tools that I like to use. And these days sort of, I've got clients that I like to work with. They like to work with me. And just making the best of data. There's a lot of data out there these days, but how do you actually work that so it works best for your business?
Right.
And every business is different. So, what does that mean? Changes all the time.
Right. Amazing. And Chris, when it comes to data on a scale of 1 to 10, I am somewhere 2.5. And I'm going to ask you a lot of dumb questions today.
Sure.
And you're going to go like, man, do I already regret I'm coming here, right? So let's take a step back. 6 years ago, right? In Australia, we saw a sudden boom of big data, metadata, this data, that data, data analytics, data science.
Yeah.
Wow, do you want to become a data scientist? The next big thing. And obviously, all of a sudden, it has gone down a little bit. And now they are obviously talking about AI and whatnot. Those last 6 years, in your opinion, what happened? Why was all of a sudden there was a conversation about data?
But I think as data gets better, more focus on data, then people talk about it more often. So when big data came out, everyone, you've got to be a big data engineer.
What is big data?
Well, exactly. And when I sort of, I was actually had a recruiter friend of mine. I said, all these big data jobs have come along suddenly. Big data. What's big data? And he goes, it's 1 million records. I went, well, I've been using databases for years that have got 10 million records. So does that make me big data or not? These days, everyone's an AI and ML expert.
Yeah.
And sure, I think it's got a way to go.
Yeah.
But, you can't be an expert overnight. People who are the experts have been doing this a long time before it became trendy. You're a data scientist. Well, in my view, a data scientist programs in R and Python. Well, I use Python a lot. I've never touched R. Am I a data scientist or not? I don't do all the stats in data. I'm sort of more focusing on the visualization and the storage and the data engineering side. So there's a lot of data jobs, and these days there is a lot of data out there.
Yeah.
How do you measure it for your business to be of benefit for your business?
I remember this. You touched on this topic, data scientists, right? And how it came about. And I was curious, like, are they PhDs in data? Are they doctorate? Because in my world, scientist means you have studied doctorate of philosophy to a certain extent. And then I saw a video on how data scientists, the job profile was created. And there's this guy, I don't remember his name. He was from Facebook. He handled the growth of Facebook in the initial phase and took it to sort of $1 billion company. Now he's a big investor in Silicon Valley. He's a tall Indian guy. What's his name?
There's a few.
Fact
Yep.
check me later.
Yep.
But yeah, so what he said was we wanted to hire a data analyst who would look at the membership of Facebook and study the trends that they're going through, the kind of posts they are reacting, etc., etc. And then they went and then they selected one person, and supposedly he was very good and very educated. He had PhDs, etc., and did all his research, and then gave him the money he wanted, and then he declined the job. And that guy goes like, "Why did he decline the job? I gave him everything, literally."
Yep.
He was like, he was offended by the job title.
The term.
What was the job title? Data analyst. What does he want? Because he's a PhD, he wants a scientist.
Right.
Okay, so call him data scientist.
yeah,
I don't care,
yeah.
right? So he said that's where the term was coined, data scientist, actually from Facebook.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So, and now in Australia, like, you have data scientists. What you were saying is basically they should be doing R and Python. Is that what it is? Is that what separates a data scientist from data analyst?
Well, that's my rule. And the problem is that there is no hard rules, right? So what's a data engineer do? Well, they engineer data. Is that building a pipeline or is that something else? A data analyst, do they analyze the data or do they analyze the business?
I want to get your opinion on this. Data analyst.
Yep.
Data engineer.
Yep.
Data scientist. Let's define them.
Business analyst, visualization expert. But it's a very grey area.
Right.
Right. So I've been a BA before, business analyst.
Right.
Does that mean I'm not a data analyst? Because I sat in the IT team. To me, a BA talks business and IT at the same time. Or you walk into a meeting with C-suite executives and go, right, I'm talking business concepts now, and I'm in my head I'm probably designing the database, but I'm talking to them in a very business fashion. And then I go back to the IT guys and I can talk in a very IT fashion, but it's the same subject.
In this business analyst kind of situation, is it what, getting new systems, and then you talk to IT, the repercussions or the positive points of new system, and then you explain it to the business?
Or just in a large company where you sort of go, the IT department builds the stuff.
Right.
So they've got to be a liaison. A BA is usually a liaison between the business and IT. Or is that a data analyst? Or do they sit more on the IT side, where they're not talking to the business as much, but they're more in the IT world? It's grey. It's this huge grey area.
Right.
I've always sort of talked about ETL. Alteryx has been doing ETL for years, and suddenly this data engineering term comes out. What's data engineering? Is it only doing the ETL? Is it doing the data modeling? Is it sort of the whole gamut of everything?
Yep.
So again, what I do is I started with Tableau and Alteryx a long time ago.
Yep.
And then sort of
jelly bean peanut butter. That's marketing thing. They used to call Alteryx, and Tableau works as peanut butter jelly bean.
Yeah,
jelly bean. Yeah, sorry.
So it's just like for Tableau, you need to get the data from somewhere.
Yep.
Where do you do that? Well, Alteryx can supply the data to you, but Alteryx is only for building pipelines, if you like. Getting the data ready for Tableau.
Right.
Where do you store that? Well, and I used to go, I don't really care, like SQL Server, just, you need a database somewhere, not Excel, not CSV files, but something that's more built for large volumes of data.
Yep.
Okay, so Snowflake comes along, and Snowflake's really good.
Salt.
So, Salt.
Yeah.
So then you can go Snowflake, Alteryx, Tableau, and you just sort of go, man, if you've got a salt stack, and the first time someone said a salt stack, I'm like, what's a salt stack? Like, I don't have any salt. And you're like, no, it's Snowflake, Alteryx, and Tableau. Whatever makes the most sense for you, that's your stack. Like, there's a lot of terms these days about modern data stack.
Right.
So is that, where Alteryx was ETL, extract, transform, and load, now you sort of say ELT, extract, load, and transform.
Right.
So the first thing I do is take the data from the source systems and put it into my database, Snowflake. Then you transform it so that it's ready for Tableau, Power BI, Looker, whatever you've got as a visualization end, so that then the business users, so again, a CEO is looking at a report or a CFO is looking at a dashboard or something, they can see the data. And then you've got to go, well, how often does it flow through? What does it do on the way? Am I aggregating data or averaging it and stuff like that? And then that whole pipeline is that data engineer,
Mm-hmm.
quite possibly. Is someone doing the data modeling?
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of sitting in the database and just doing the modeling, or does the engineer do the whole lot?
Mm.
And then what does the data analyst do?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the BA sort of back in the business, sort of
Mm-hmm.
going, the business needs are this, which makes that whole pipeline get built somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and then they see the dashboards at the end.
You reckon these software vendors have confused the market?
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe they have come up with that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a data scientist. You can just be a data analyst
do
to
whatever
do this.
you want. And then again, data scientists, you have to, again, my rule is you'd have to code in either R or Python.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do a lot of Python coding. Does that make me a data scientist? I'd say no, because I'm not doing that stats and modeling and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But every vendor's confusing the market. Tableau now does data prep. Snowflake does dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants as much. They're a business, right? Their aim is to get as much revenue as possible.
Yep.
They're building all these tools.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a byproduct, they're confusing the market.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next big term comes out, and everyone sort of gravitates to that.
Yeah.
2 years ago, what was ChatGPT? What was an LLM? No one knew what an LLM was, and suddenly ChatGPT comes out, and everyone goes, "Oh, I'm an expert in LLMs." Right? But what was your experience in LLM 6 months ago or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Everyone's an expert now. Everyone has got less than 12 months experience.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a tool. They are confusing the market now. Yeah. And I've seen, like, for my research for any interview, I go through. So say, for example, before this, I had an SEO expert. So I go through all the SEO jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And see what the requirement is, and it's confusing as F. And then I go to a data scientist and data analyst. The requirement is confusing as F, right? So now sometimes they want data engineer, but the attributes are data analysts.
Yep.
Sometimes the data analyst attributes are data scientists. I'm like, what do you want? Right?
So most of the IT jobs is you'll get, some recruiters are good because they know what they're after. And is that the recruiter or the business? You can never tell. But sometimes you just see this job and it's just like, you need this. And it's like, no one can be an expert in everything you expect. Expert level in Tableau, Power BI, Looker, and Hex or something. Like, how many years does it take you to do that sort of stuff? Because And
do you even need that in one person?
And even if I'm talking to recruiters, you just sort of go, but what are they using? So if I've got experience in Tableau and they're using Power BI and the job says, Tableau or Power BI, they're assuming I'm just going to cross skills.
Right.
Do I want to cross skill? Do I only want to work with Tableau? Don't know.
Yeah. So would that be a better thing to say? So instead of naming what tools you should be using, better name the outcome, like visualization expert or analytics, instead of saying that Tableau expert or Power BI expert. Would that be a better thing to do?
No, I'd actually probably go with Tableau expert or Power BI expert, the actual software. So for me, I'd always want a Tableau job. Like, I'm not going to use Power BI. I don't know it all that well, right? So if a job has Tableau and Power BI, I'm always going to ask which one. There's not many companies out there that use both.
Yeah.
So which one? And then if it's both. So which one am I going to be using the most? And if it's too much Power BI, sorry, I'm probably not your person. I'm not a Power BI expert. You want Tableau? You only want Tableau stuff? Well, yeah, I use Tableau all the time, 7 days a week sometimes. So, if you want a Tableau person, sure, I'm right there with you. I'm in, basically. If you want a Power BI expert, but the job said, the JD said Tableau, or the advert said Tableau, that's why I'm replying, and suddenly it's a Power BI role, not so much. Just because but I'm sort of being honest. I don't have experience in that area, and I don't want to cross skill. So that's just life.
Is Power BI free to business? That's what I have heard.
Well, and again, I'm really heavy on the Tableau side. Power BI is free to start.
Right.
Tableau is free to start. But I've also read Tableau white papers where they say at certain levels Power BI is more expensive than Tableau.
Oh, is it?
They both do the same job, right? I always have the car analogy. What car do you want? If a car's just 4 seats, 4 doors, and a steering wheel to get from A to B, cool, great. And if you just, but there's a difference between a car if you're just driving down to the shops every day or if you're going to Brisbane. When you go to Brisbane, are you towing a caravan or do you want to take 7 people with you or 2? So it's not just that tool. It's what do you really want to do with it?
Yeah.
Because if you don't really, it's the same old analogy. If you don't know what you want as a result, then anything's going to get you there. Any path will get you there. But what do you want? And again, I can't comment on Power BI pricing because I don't know it. I can comment on Tableau pricing. Contact Microsoft or look up the website and stuff. On the Tableau website, the pricing is there, and also to a newbie, it is highly confusing about which option, which one, blah 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 blah. But then speak to someone and say, what do I need? You don't need every user at $100 a month. But you can't have every user at $20 a month or whatever it is. It's a mix of what works for you. Snowflake's really expensive if you use it that way, or it's really cheap if you use it the other way. It's the same tool, but how do you use that tool?
What attributes do you want? It's the same thing. Like I can relate this to because if I use there's a tool in marketing called SEM Rush. It's not cheap; it's expensive. And if you add they have got another tool on the add-on. It's called their content tool. So it will give you ideas on what content users are asking for. It's pretty good, man. And it'll maybe add another $600 to your monthly or $250 to your monthly. But do you need it? If you need it, you want to have that, right? So it's basically needs against wants. Basically, let's take a step back, and I want to get your experience as a data professional, being a conduit between the business and IT, or the business and more tech kind of environment. You did mention that it's the CEOs, the executive level, they look at the dashboards, they look at the reports, etc. What change have you seen the way the executives consume these dashboards, the reports? Are the executives more data friendly now, or they still go like, what is this? I don't understand this, etc.
Well, that's more the data literacy scale, right? So they're getting more data literate. I think sometimes slowly. Everyone's time poor. So again, when you're building a dashboard, it is, can you understand that in 3 to 5 seconds? If you're having to look at a dashboard and it takes you a minute to understand what's going on, it's probably been designed wrong.
Interesting.
So what are you looking at? And I'd sort of shake people violently sometimes because in Tableau they sort of think about Excel, and Excel is a spreadsheet. It's not a database. It's a spreadsheet, which is just a grid of numbers. So they build a dashboard, and what do they have? A grid of numbers. And Tableau's got a very old demo to sort of say, there's all these grids of numbers. How many 9s are in that grid? You're trying to figure it out. Okay, so then the next step is, if you colour only the 9s, how many are in that matrix? And obviously it's a lot faster to see when you count in colour. Okay, so if you're only interested in 9s, take all the other numbers away. So you've got this big matrix that only has 9s in it. How fast or how much time do you need to see how many 9s are there? Now, obviously, it's not, you're trying to learn something by learning this as well, right? So you need a dashboard that sort of is really fast to understand what's going on. Some executives just look at the same dashboard every day. So they're going to open up for their daily sales progress, or sometimes their hourly sales progress. Maybe it's a monthly sales thing, or maybe it's not even sales. How's my website tracking this month versus last month, last year, whatever? To then say you can quickly know where the business is heading. And then, obviously, depending on the business, how much time have you got to correct that change? Or if you're a retail store and you've got a whole lot of bricks and mortar locations, and one location is just going gangbusters, what are they doing there? And can you replicate around that to all the other stores? Because everyone's got to mimic that. Or, if it goes the other way, we don't want you to do that. Everyone else has got to tell that store or that business what to do that's better or worse, or But so then you're sort of trying to compare data to a previous period, whether it's this time last year or whatever, last month, to then say, how are we going? How are we tracking? Is business improving? These days, I think it sort of feels like everything's dropping down a bit, and there's just not, consumers aren't spending that much money. So it gets even more important to say, what should I be doing here?
So I think that's an interesting analogy, because you did say that the scale of data literacy within executives is increasing. To me, it also says that the responsibility on data professionals is also increasing to produce dashboards and reports that are more consumable, that are executives friendly, and more consumable.
More user friendly, faster to understand, quicker to get to the message. What the dashboard should be built for a reason. What is that reason? What's the message you're trying to convey? And can you just understand it in less than 2 seconds?
In your interaction with all the data analysts in Australia, on a scale of 1 to 10, do they possess these qualities or these attributes where they can just take the dashboard and then just dumb it down to, no, shouldn't say dumb it down, but more around make it more consumable?
Well, some do and some don't. Depends on their experience. It's also, and I've been in a position before where an executive says, I just want numbers. And you sort of go, well, actually, you and you're trying to be polite to these people. They run the business. I'm more the outsider coming in to help, to hopefully improve. You don't just want numbers. What are you trying to see? I had a case a few years ago where a CFO just wanted the numbers. And I ended up building a dashboard for her. I walked into her office. I'm sort of like, we're in this position here where she can see her screen. I can't see her screen. She pulled up the dashboard and I could see the way her eyes were tracking. I said, I think you need a run rate. And she's like, I don't know. What is that? She goes, no, this is fine. This is what I want to do. And you could see the way the eyes were going. And I said, I think what you're after is a run rate. She goes, I don't know what a run rate is. I don't want any of this stuff. This is working perfectly. I went, and you sort of go, can I have a few hours? I'll build you a run rate dashboard and see if that's what you want. And a run rate is basically, it's in sport and everything, but if you're 10 days through the month, then where would you be at the end of the month? Right? So it's sort of like a divide by 10 multiplied by 30. If you're 20 days through the month, divide by 20, multiply by 30. Based on where I am now, where am I going to be at the end of the month?
Right. It's kind of forecasting.
Kind of forecasting, but just sort of like, just based on what's happened in this month or quarter or whatever your period of time is, where am I going to be at the end? So the maths is fairly simple. Average it over the day, multiply it by the length of the period. And she didn't want that at all. Went away and did it for her, and presented it back the next day and said, okay, this is what I think you need. And she looked at it and just went, oh my God. Because now she was doing the maths on every line because it was every different retail store. She was trying to do it on every single row that's in her spreadsheet because she had all the numbers that she needed to do the maths herself. She didn't need anything else.
Right.
But when we took that logic and put it in a dashboard, and suddenly she can go, right, cool. So I've got my month-to-date sales. I've got my run rate to calculate to the end of the month, done for me, so I don't have to do it myself. Compare that to budget at the end of the month, and suddenly she had a dashboard which told her which stores are underperforming, and she doesn't have to sit there and go, because maybe she's got it wrong or maybe it doesn't matter. But then we were like traffic lighting, saying, hey, this store here, based on where we are in the month, and whatever, we're at the 10th of the month. If I extrapolate that out to 31 days in the month or whatever days are in the month and look at my budget, they need help. I know that on day 10. Right? So you've got 20 days, if you like, to fix it. And when you get up to 27 days, well, you don't have as much time to fix it, but you've got that more accurate calculation.
This is mind-boggling, right? Yeah. So, and you said this sentence, and I'm gonna pick that sentence. It's a very interesting sentence, or a question that you asked, like, what do you want to see?
Yes.
Right. What do you want to see? And the CFO, she may not know that what she wanted to see, because she was calculating. She was like, her aim was, I need to calculate this. To calculate these, I need these numbers. Right?
She wanted all the raw data, so she could do the calculations herself. And again, no no dispersions on her. It was more of a data literacy thing.
Yep.
Is she just wanted the raw numbers because she knew the calculation to do herself, and that's all she wanted. I'm like, yeah, but we could do more for her.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
all she does is open up the dashboard and just go, boom, that one, and that one out of 30 rows of data. You really don't need the 30 rows of data anymore. The data was still there, but we just added in some extra flags for her.
So is it better for executives or people from business if they just tell you in plain English, listen, Chris, what we want to see is in the next 20 days of every month, how much are we left with?
Yeah.
Just plain English, instead of saying that, can you give me data on this, and then you're like, yeah, but where do you want to go with this?
Yeah.
Right. And someone comes in, I want to see by end of this quarter how much sales would I made based on the conversion that I'm having right now. Do you think that the business people should ask you in that way?
And that's the benefit. Sometimes it's easy to sort of have a vague description, like not I need a bar chart. It's more the business problem is this.
You know what, Chris? Yeah. I thought it was the other way around.
Like you have to tell a bar chart.
I thought I had to go very specific on what I want, but you are saying it's actually better if you give me this vague description. We can extrapolate from that.
So again, it depends. Like if you need a bar chart for something, then I need a bar chart. That's the only thing that applies. Sometimes it shouldn't be a bar; it should be a line. Or, it's just like, I need a pie chart. And it's like, well, suddenly you've got 10 slices in a pie. That's no good either. Do you really need a pie chart? Do you want something else? So again, it's a case of what works in which scenario. Is it better just to give a business description and say, well, I don't care what the dashboard looks like. Build me a dashboard that tells me about this business problem. Now, the other problem is, obviously, the dashboard comes back and you go, actually doesn't explain anything at all.
Yep.
So then you need the business knowledge and the data to say, what do I want to do properly?
And that's where you come in.
Yeah.
Or folks like you come in who understand both the business language and the IT or data knowledge. And then you combine them together. And
hopefully you've got all the data that you need and combine it together and do that. Yeah.
Has it happened when they have a problem and you don't have enough data?
Sure. And as much as I say it happens all the time, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes you go back to them and say, where's the data for this? And when you look at it, you just go, it's not there, or it's the wrong granularity, or there's the data is not fit to answer the question they've got. Where do you get that data from? And again, the price of cloud computing these days, and all data is somewhere, usually behind an API. How do you get the data out of the API into your database so you can put it on your dashboard?
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So moving away from sort of the executive level and the conduit between business and analysts, let's come more towards. I would want to explore more around the Australian market and the emergence of data analytics in the Australian market. And you can correct me if I'm going in a wrong direction over here. What I've seen is all of a sudden a spike in our government, public sector, using a lot of data. Using a lot of data analysts, recruiting a lot of data analysts, data scientists, etc. I mean, yes, there was in Big Fours, consultancies everywhere, used to have data analysts, but all of a sudden there's a boom. I would say I've seen in Department of Education, Department of Defense, Revenue, etc. Everyone is hiring data people. Would that be a correct thing to say? And if yes, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've only got my little view of the world, so I don't know every data analyst in Australia. But it's the same thing as you see on the news all the time. The federal government's saying we need more data people. The amount of data being created is exploding as well. So you just need more people to do that sort of work. Is it on the engineering, the visualizations, the modeling, getting into AI and ML? You just need more people to do that. How do people get into that? Well, I don't really have that many formal qualifications. I just sit down and learn. So, and I teach a lot as well. So I had a Tableau course about 6 months ago, and the guy was very, attendee of the course, learning how to use Tableau for the very first time. Sort of my joke is, look, you don't even know how to spell Tableau yet, but that's okay. But I was there once before as well, right? So it's the same as Excel. There was a day when you didn't know how to use Excel, right? And then you started learning.
Yep.
So there was a day when you didn't know Tableau, and then you started learning. So this guy was he was a little bit, not very defensive, but he was a little bit defensive. And he said, how long has it taken you to learn Tableau? And I sort of went, it's been 9 years. I haven't learned everything yet. And he took it the wrong way. Like I meant it as a joke, right? It's a throwaway joke. Yeah, I've been using Tableau for 9 years. I haven't learned everything yet. And he's like, oh my God, like this is far too hard.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
No. But I said, don't get me wrong. I use Tableau quite heavily. I use Tableau for crazy stuff you would never think of using Tableau for. But I still don't know everything about Tableau. Does everyone know everything about Excel? There's always new things to learn. Whether it's you can use Excel and not know what a VLOOKUP is. You can use Excel and know what a VLOOKUP is, but not a pivot table.
Right.
And it just goes on and on and on. When you think you know everything, a new version comes out and there's new features.
Yep.
So you don't know the new features yet.
And the new business problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
And next week there's a new problem. Like, again, I was sort of thinking, there's a long time ago, Excel only had, 65,000 rows. And now you go to 1 million rows. I use databases that are a lot more than 1 million rows. So I don't tend to use Excel for that, but a lot of people do. And to learn Tableau, it's just like, I've got a spreadsheet and you can just make random data in a spreadsheet to start learning how to use Tableau properly. And then do you evolve into databases or whichever, Alteryx, whatever.
So you reckon, obviously, with emergence of more and more data, right? There's more and more data now around us, and then more and more people interact with data. Obviously, now we need more and more people in Australia who are literate in data and who can operate with data, right? With that, do you think the tools, the vendors that we have, the Tableaus of the world, the Alteryx of the world, the Snowflakes of the world, they will come up with more job or profiles? Now they will have data magician.
Yeah.
Requirement data magician. Or something like that.
Yeah, well, and there will be, as things naturally evolve. So, a while ago, go back 10 years, there was nothing called Snowflake. There was no cloud. A cloud database was really expensive to manage. No one would have a cloud database. Everything would be on-prem. These days, I would never recommend on-prem because not on-prem being on-premise.
Yeah.
So you've actually got to buy hardware and have it sitting in your computer room.
Yep.
Who's got a computer room these days? But if you have on-prem hardware, you've got to spec it for the maximum you've ever going to use. It's like your laptop saying, I've got a 4-core laptop. So suddenly if you need 8 cores or 20 cores or 200 cores, you can't do that. Where on cloud you can. And as someone who, if someone wants to sit home and learn about this stuff, I can create a Snowflake account and spin up a 128 core machine in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Use it for a while. And again, 128 core machine is going to cost you a bit to run, but you're not going to run it 24/7. If you run it for 5 minutes and go, wow, that's really fast. I can process a lot of data and then turn it off. And it might cost you 20 cents, 50 cents. To then say, okay, I see how that will work with that. Turn it on forever. Sure, you probably don't have enough money to do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff I do on Snowflake, it's on really small machines.
Right.
Like 2-core or 4-core. Turn it on for 5 or 10 minutes. Even if you're paying for it yourself, that might be $20 at the end of the month or $100 or whatever. But how much can you learn in that time?
It's interesting to me that you have researched so much about these tools, and obviously because you have used these tools for a while with your expertise and wisdom, is that I wouldn't say you cheat the system, but I think you know it so well that you can use it to your advantage. And I haven't seen that in a lot of people. Even in marketers, I haven't seen, even in myself, like I will use the tool the way it is. And then I'll go like, oh my God, it is too expensive to use. But I won't think like that. Like, okay, you only need this tool for this much and then use that and then stop it. So that's very interesting, right? Have you seen that trend with anyone else? Like what?
Oh, a lot of it's sort of, you've got to know to do it, but there's a lot of people that do it. Is just there was an old Alteryx catchphrase a long time ago saying never stop learning.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I went, yeah, that's the key. It's the same as I've been learning Tableau for 9 years. Never stop learning. There's always new things to learn. Every software vendor adds features to their product every year. And again, there's a lot of snowflake stuff I don't know. You sort of look at it and you go, well, not so much. For what I'm going to do now, I don't need that. I've had instances, especially in the last 6 months, where you're reading some technical document and you read through it and you go, I don't understand anything they're trying to teach me. Right? If that's how to use a AWS Lambda function, and you read it through the first time and go, I just don't get it. Like I don't understand what that is. Now, is it how my brain works? Hopefully people might think the same way as me. I might come back to that a week later and go, I want to learn how to do this. I read this a week ago, didn't understand a thing. And you read it again, you sort of start to pick up little bits. Then you start to play with it. And after a while you sort of think, it might take a few days, it might take a week, and you go, wow, I know how to do this now. And again, why am I, in this example, why am I reading about AWS Lambda function? Because as a solution to a client's problem, I think this might be the solution. Right. But I don't know how to use it. So I say to the client, and I'm honest with all my clients, I say to the client, I've never done this before. So I've never done this before, but I think this is a solution. I'll go away and see if I can learn how to do it properly. Sort of getting into the consulting world where everyone goes, yes, I know exactly how to use that. I'll tell you on Monday. And they go, I've got a weekend to learn it. It's just like, I'll tell clients, I don't know how to do this. You hired me for these things, I know what to do. We're sort of a little bit out of my comfort zone now. I think I can add that on to my knowledge. I don't know how long it'll take, but hopefully as quickly as possible. And as I said, you read through it and just go, I don't understand. My brain can't read this document and understand it. And you just go away and do something else that bubbles away inside, and you can come back to it a few times and go, right, now I know what they're getting at. Now I can do this. And for this case that I'm talking about, it took me probably about a week or two. I went, right, okay, problem solved. Now I can actually create a Lambda function that does this sort of thing, blah, blah, blah.
Coming to the tools now.
Yep.
let's do it, right?
Yep.
So, Power BI versus Tableau.
Tableau.
Why?
I've as I said, I've used. I just had my anniversary, and I started using Tableau on about, I think it was late July 2014.
Wow. Okay.
And I actually had I used to have the email where in about October 2014, I emailed my boss because I was supposed to be using some other software. And I emailed my boss and I just sort of went, I know so much about Tableau now, I don't want to use anything else.
Right.
And that's largely what I've been doing since 2014. But then adding things on as I go. So, I also don't think I wouldn't class myself as a Tableau expert anymore. I'm more getting into the data engineering side because if the data engineering, if the data's not there, Tableau won't work at all.
True.
If the data engineering isn't right, then it's hard to do things in Tableau. If you cross-tab your data, so if you've got your months as columns, Tableau won't work properly.
Yep.
And I saw, I saw the need for that. Well, there's a lot of need for it. I can't solve all those needs. But then if you design the database properly, Tableau works a lot better. How do you get the data in the database? And that's what I sort of track through. There's Alteryx, there's a whole heap of other things that sort of get the data in the right format, in the right place. And then you drop Tableau on top of that, and all the Tableau work is easy because the database has been designed properly. Yeah.
And why not Power BI?
It wasn't around in 2014. So why? Because when I started using Tableau, Microsoft didn't care about the data visualization market.
Right.
More recently, I don't even know when, Microsoft suddenly released this thing called Power BI. And I remember listening to a podcast a long time ago, and this guy was he was serious. He was a Microsoft person. He goes, but Microsoft saw that Tableau had too much of a foothold in the data visualization market, so they had to do something about it.
Oh, okay. So it was just a response.
Okay. No, it was definitely a reaction.
Yeah.
And he said, and what Microsoft does is they've got a community, like Tableau does as well.
Yep.
And the community can post an idea. Tableau does as well. And the ideas are the new features for the product. Tableau does as well. And it's And it's just I've never had the opportunity to learn Power BI because I'm just so heavily on the Tableau side that I just go, well, I think, and I might be completely wrong, someone's going to kill me, everything that Power BI can do, Tableau can do as well. But I can't judge that fairly because I don't know what Power BI can do. I've never had the need to learn. I was in a conversation last week about pricing, same as what you talked about pricing before. And we just went, and I said the same as what I said before. When you start off with Power BI Desktop, that's free. When you start adding on to a server, enterprise level with 100 users, obviously that's not free. Tableau have got white papers on why Power BI is more expensive than Tableau.
Right.
I don't even know where the white paper is. I've never read it. Right. So who am I to judge what it is? But I was that same conversation halfway through last week, and we went, oh, okay. How do we install Power BI? We're all running Macs at this client, and looked through and went, Power BI Desktop is only a Windows product. Well, it's Microsoft, fine.
Yeah.
How do you run a Windows program on a Mac? You've got to run a VM to get back into Windows, so you can run Power BI Desktop. Right. And that's easy. Like running a VM on a Mac is child's play these days. Do we want to go to that level to use Power BI or just use Tableau because we can and it's there and
I think what has happened is from a marketing lens, the user experience of Tableau is great, and then the way they treat their customers obviously is great, and they have built up this community, and the retention is so great that customers don't feel that they have to switch, because that's what it is.
Sure.
Because Microsoft came late, right? And the only thing they have now that they can rely on is a switch, and switches are not easy, especially with a competitor who's been giving such a great service.
Yep.
Why would you switch? There's no need.
Yeah.
There's no need.
And the need sometimes is Microsoft will do discounts, but. And in this same conversation, we said, are we after the software that costs the least? Is cost the driving factor? Or should we be looking at functionality? Or should we be looking at value? So value is more of even if it costs, put a number on it, even if it costs $200K more a year to use, how fast does it take us to build dashboards? So if you can build dashboards 10 times as fast in Tableau, but it's costing you $200K more a year, is that a better value? It's more expense, sure. You're paying more for the software, but is it faster and easier and quicker to use? And all those things, sort of weigh up on those things. A lot of people come down to, it's just the cost between the two, and it may not actually be the cost between the two.
That's true. That's what people don't realize actually.
Well, it's the same Alteryx discussion is look at the value of the tool. Alteryx costs a lot of money, but when you can sort of say, hey, I'm going to automate all this stuff. It's not automate to reduce headcount. It's usually automate to get the data ready. So the person who sat there collating data in Excel for 3 days of the month, they've now got 3 days of the month to analyze that data better.
Yeah.
Get a better business outcome.
Absolutely.
Don't get rid of them. They've got a lot of business knowledge, but just repurpose them slightly to say you're not just a copy and paste monkey in Excel. You're actually, the data's been processed overnight. You've got it there. It's deadly accurate. Now go off and do something better with it.
I'm going to make this conversation as a short of 15 seconds and it's going to go viral.
Yeah.
That's a really good insight on this one. Okay, let's shift gears. Now, bad data and good data. That's what we want to discuss, right? Bad data, good data.
Yeah.
Business impact of bad data and good data. If you can tell me a little bit with some examples where you have seen bad outcomes from bad data and good outcomes from good data.
Trick question. What's your definition of bad data?
I'm not a person. To me, okay, from a marketing point of view, so if I have a list of 100,000 rows of MQLs, marketing qualified leads, and I don't have any repeats or duplicates, and I have correct email addresses, up-to-date email addresses, I have phone numbers that are not international or Australia only, or not, and I don't have like abc@gmail.com or 123456 as phone number. To me, that's good data. And the absence of that is bad data.
Okay. And how do you fix that?
Yep.
So, and again, a lot of these days would be, how do you sort of fill in the blanks with that? So do you validate a Gmail address? If you've got a street address, do you have a Latin long? And that's what I was saying before, is there's an API to do that sort of stuff. So, in a new version of Tableau that's coming out soon, you'll be able to just type in an address or have an address in your data, and it will automatically convert it to a Latin long for you.
Wow.
You can't do that yet. It's coming soon.
Wow.
I was doing that years ago when we were saying, okay, if I've got an address, let's go out to Google and we can interface with an API back to Google, give that the address. Google sort of knows the Latin long of every address in the world and store that Latin long in the database. So then if I want to map that, obviously you don't really care what the address is. You've got the Latin long.
Yeah.
So there's a bazillion services these days that say, hey, if I've got this, you can augment it by doing that. Is it address and Latin long? Is it verify a phone number? Is it, ping an email to make sure that the email is right? Because your email might be 123@gmail.com, but are you sure? And then obviously when you get into what you were saying with SEM Rush and stuff like, well, not more on the SEM Rush, but more on the email marketing side, is say, if I'm, does it cost me money to send emails to these people? Or if you're using Twilio to SMS all these people, like, is it a valid phone number? Are they even getting it and reading it? So yeah, bad data is always hard, but it's more augmenting it to turn it into good data if you need to.
So someone who is as capable as you, coming in an organization, step one would be to look at the data and see if it's bad or good. And then step two would be, if it's bad, let's turn it into good first before I do anything with it.
I'd probably work on the assumption that it's good data, and then it's only if we sort of go, oh, there's holes here that we've got to go and fill those holes.
Right.
People would usually know straight away if their data's bad, and then do they know the process to make it better, or am I there to actually solve that process to make it better? And then if you're making it better, where is that source? So again, if it's an address to a Latin long, that's easy. Google has that service. Do you want to pay for that? But back when I did that, I think Google did 100 addresses every day for free. So we just go, let's get 100 addresses. Our database might be 1 million addresses. Let's say 200,000 of them don't have a Latin long. So if you want to do it on the cheap side, you just get the first 100 per day, you throw those out to Google, get the Latin long, save the Latin long. Well, tomorrow it'll be a different 100 that you go and check, and a different 100 that you go and check.
I like you did the same analogy as snowflakes over here.
Yeah.
To save cost. That's really good. That's really it's interesting, the world of data. It is complicated to a non-data person, but it is critical. You see, data touches every department.
Everything. Everywhere.
HR, marketing, sales, R&D, IT, finance. It touches everything. And I think everyone has got a responsibility, whenever they're interacting with data, interact with ethics and interact with good intent. So you have good data, instead of it's just a number in the spread. Just put anything, Sure. Because I've seen. Yeah. Like, just fill in the blanks. I don't care, man. Just put 2 over there and just move on. But just even that small mistake has a big business impact. Would you agree?
Yeah. And you see in some data, like, a lot of people sort of go, oh, there's no difference between a null value and 0. And I always say, oh, hang on, 0 is a number.
Yeah.
Like 0 could mean 0 sales or 0 degrees or whatever the 0, 0 people on a train. But a null would mean probably there's no train. Or in a different business, a null and 0 mean exactly the same thing. It just means that there was nothing there. So again, it's sort of getting a bit technical, but what do you want that thing to be? But you're right with the data. Like, your phone is generating so much data on a per second basis sometimes. It's everything generates data these days.
I think with what's going to happen in the market, the way I see, the way you explain, data jobs will always be there.
Sure.
People say, oh, AI is going to replace these things and that thing. I think jobs in data would be the last thing to be replaced. Because, to generate data, and accumulate data. That may be,
Mm.
but to analyze data, to
Yeah.
fix data, to create dashboards, to give insights so it has business outcomes, I don't think that job will be replaced soon.
And even if the AI, if the AI can go and build the dashboard for you automatically, what sort of business intelligence, what knowledge is that using to actually build the dashboard properly? So, sure, there's things that can just do sales by month every day, not a problem at all. But is it sales by month you're after, or is it average sales by customer?
Yeah.
Look at basket analysis or something like that. And again, so you go off and you correct the AI so that you can do basket analysis. But then you're looking at foot traffic in the store or something. Was it Bunnings or someone recently was like doing face recognition of customers walking into the store?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And is that sort of leaning on, that's not actually bad data, but that's a bad use of data.
Yeah.
So, you've got to worry about all that sort of stuff as well.
You said that there will be there will be someone. So the AI will be producing some data, some dashboards, some reports, but you will have someone who has to go and fix the AI again to produce the correct dashboard. So the way I see it, AI is not going to replace the jobs for data analysts or someone who will analyze the data.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can gather all the data, automated it, and collate all the data that you want, but you still need someone to check it, analyze it, provide insights for the business outcomes.
Yeah, because you need that business understanding of what the data actually really means. So, again, does AI generate a dashboard properly?
Yeah.
But then who looks at that dashboard and pulls business decisions out of that? So, I'm not scared of my job. I don't. But a lot of people are joking, sort of saying, "Oh, AI is just going to replace them." It's just like, yes, but it won't replace the business acumen and knowledge that you've got. It might replace, and again, I would like to automate the whole data pipeline. People shouldn't be spending time copying, pasting, or downloading data or whatever. That should all be automated. Some level of dashboard creation might be automated, but the business decisions out of that and the knowledge that you get from that, I don't think that can be automated. Not yet. Not for a while.
We are very optimistic with this situation. We are very optimistic with this discussion, Chris.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you came here and spoke in simple, plain language about data analytics. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Thanks.